सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह
सह
वीर्यं
वीर्यं
करवावहै
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्.
Namaste everyone. So I'll try to revise the chapter 15 that we studied last week called Purushottam Yoga. In this chapter, three important terms come to us: Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. So to understand what is each term, what is the relationship between them, and why do we need to understand this knowledge? And knowing all this will help us understand everything, the knowledge that will fulfill our lives. In this chapter, it is explained that samsara is like an upside down tree, but it's used as a metaphor, ashwatha. The trunk and the branches are prakriti or maya, and urdhva, which means above, is that is Paramatma, the divine consciousness. The tree of life or samsara is so large and dense, it is so deep rooted that it's difficult to cut down. We don't know where it starts, where it ends, what are the sources in this huge web. The kshetra or the prakriti is also ever changing. The only absolute nature here is Paramatma. And a person who is able to develop detachment of the samsara through his powers of discernment or viveka, with use of more objectivity in thinking, the one who understands the transient nature of things and happiness, that person is the jnani. To this person is available the purity of the mind. He's free from pride, delusion, attachments, and desire, bringing him to the point of clarity of the mind and knowledge. This person remains steadfast on the spiritual pursuit with the quietude of mind, the clarity of knowledge, and his viveka becomes sharper. In Shloka 6, the question arises, who is the Supreme Paramatma? This Paramatma, of which the reality is Sat and Chaitanya Swarupa. And some examples of this Paramatma are Surya, the presiding deity of our eyes, Moon, the presiding deity of mind, the fire, the deity of speech. And who is Jiva? Jiva is this individual being, and Bhagavan says, this Jiva is as though my part. Just the way the sun shines in different pots, and it may look like many suns, but there is only one sun, one Surya. So the truth of reflection is Urdhva Paramatma. And the Jiva is the essential nature of this Jiva is Brahma. And the essential nature of the world is also Brahma. When this Jiva understands with Viveka or discernment and Vairagya, the clarity comes to him and he is liberated through eyes of wisdom, Pashyati Jnana Chakshu. And where is this Paramatma? So Bhagwan says, I am everywhere in sun, moon, and fire. I am in all of reality. I am the glorious manifestation. The sun, moon, and fire are sources of energy. They derive their power from that infinite consciousness. The power of the earth to sustain and nourish all beings is my energy alone, Bhagwan says, which means I am your food. That digestive fire in you is because of me. So it makes eating food as yagna. Such a beautiful, powerful message that we get in this chapter. So the food is Brahma, which is Brahma giving life to life. So eating is not just for filling our belly, but a yagna karma. And then Bhagwan says, I'm also in your heart. I'm sitting in your heart as your own self. The qualities of love, acceptance, mercy, charity, kindness. So once the jiva realizes this, that this God is everywhere, he sees God in everything. So the circle is complete with Bhagwan and fire, sun and moon, in earth, in food you eat, in your heart. It's not like he's somewhere up there in the clouds, but he's right here within all of us. And all the experiences which are yours related to your knowledge, your memory, and even your forgetfulness, they're all because of me, Bhagwan says. The thing to be known through Vedas, the Jnana, is also me. So this Jnani Bhakta, who knows that Bhagwan is everywhere, he loves everything, he loves Bhagwan, he serves and worships Bhagwan. And then Bhagwan says, Arjuna, O Anaga and Bharat, this knowledge will protect you from all suffering. And this knowledge is secretive because it is not known through perception and senses and instruments of knowledge or logic, but it is revealed with help of Guru. Acharan Purusho Vedaha. Knowledge is revealed through Guru alone. Thank you.
Today, I will continue with the next few chapters, actually next 2 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So today we are going to start with the 16th chapter of the Gita. We did see the 15th, which was the Shastra, a complete scientific analysis of the Gita in a capsule form. Okay, we did see that. And Bhagwan, now these are very practical chapters which are coming now. You know, this 16th and 17th, lot of reflection can be done on them for our own personal internal evaluation and also movement forwards. So not just focusing on negativities and getting stuck in it, but Bhagwan Krishna is going to give us a lot of helpful ways to help ourselves, tools to help ourselves after evaluating ourselves. So you saw 14th chapter was like that. And then, of course, in 13 chapters, we got some, some values and virtues that we can cultivate within ourselves. So throughout, Bhagwan is pointing out some beautiful pointers now, and all to facilitate our inward journey to our true nature of that place of peace and strength, which we call as pure consciousness, which is eternal. So keeping this in mind, now comes the 16th chapter. It's called as the Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. So, what are we going to see in this chapter? Again, our own inner personality, our own Mahabharata war, not outside, right here are the Kauravas and Pandavas within ourselves, where we have a wonderful noble qualities. There also are hiding, lurking some of our own negativities, which we struggle with sometimes, right? So those are there. So that's where the Mahabharata war is happening. Bhagwan is going to show what are those positive things which within us and how we can strengthen them. And then these negative things, sometimes we just feel like are overtaking us. Are we truly helpless? Let's see. And then Bhagwan's going to say, look, the root cause of all of them is just three. And we'll see what those are, the Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. And really, three of them, what am I going to do about that? Very in a what looks like an extraordinarily simple manner, Bhagwan asks us to divinize our karma. And then you know what happens. You're not really suppressing, but actually finding a way to get out of our troublesome qualities. And do our shastras have a role in it? Do our scriptures, do they have a role in it? Bhagwan also will point that out in this 16th beautiful chapter. So, this is the fifth shloka of the 16th chapter, which sort of is like a summary of the Daivi and Asuri Sampattis, and what Bhagwan is sort of telling us. Don't worry, Arjuna, in that, don't worry to all of us. You know, hold on to me, cultivate these noble qualities or strengthen those noble qualities, and there's no doubt you will come to me. You will get liberated, he says. So, all of us jivas are born, we are humans because we're a mixture of these qualities. If we were all just that daivi qualities, those wonderful divine qualities, would be devatas. It's what is said. And if we were all terrible, with only negativities in us, we would have had to go through lower births as well. So the fact that we're human shows all of us are a mixture. So you don't have to feel bad or don't have to look at somebody's feeling superior. There's nothing like that. All humans have a mixture of qualities. And where we have our great divine noble qualities are sometimes what we feel like, ugh, I don't like that in me, type of negativities as well. And all these are not just what we've cultivated in this life. These have come as packages along with us because these are deep impressions we've been carrying from many, many lives. So, previous births, we've nurtured some of these qualities, good or bad, and they are like fragrance, they're accompanying us. Okay. But just because we have those thoughts in our mind, those negative thoughts in our mind or something, doesn't mean we are, committed to a life of sin or anything. What we do after a thought comes in our mind actually is more important, right? Whether we act on terrible thoughts or whether we say, ugh, brush it off and move ahead, or we look for strength in different ways to get out of our negativities, those are more important. Okay, so it's not like just because a thought arises in our head we're terrible people. Let's not make ourselves feel that way at all, right? So we can drop those evil thoughts or negative thoughts, we can sustain and nourish our noble thoughts, our life will change. So this is what Bhagwan has said in this shloka. Let's just read it. It's like a summary. This is the gist of it. Okay. दैवी सम्पद्विमोक्षाय
दैवी सम्पद्विमुक्षाय
निबन्धाय सुरीमता
निबन्धाय सुरीमता
मा शुच सम्पदं दैवीम्
मा शुच सम्पदं दैवीम्
अभिजातोऽसि पाण्डव.
अभिजातोऽसि पाण्डव.
So Bhagavan is telling Arjuna, there both these qualities are present, the Daivi qualities and the Asuri qualities. And the Asuri qualities, of course, are those ones which sort of keep us in this samsara cycle again and again. Whereas the Daivi qualities, if you nurture them, there is no doubt, Arjuna, that you will come to me. Okay, so the path will be cleared for you. So don't worry, that's a liberating path. So cultivate those values. So actually, the 16th chapter starts with the Daivi qualities. And in this, 26 are mentioned. We look at a few of them. And then you'll see sort of everything is connected to the other. One quality, if we nurture, the other sort of will follow right away. And then you find more of the next one coming into our lives, and so on. So it's basically what's happening if you think about it. When we cultivate one of these qualities, we become at ease, our mind becomes more quieter. The more quiet we are, there is a clarity in our thinking. And when there is a clarity in our thinking, the way we look at situations, way we respond to people, everything will be balanced. Everything is much more with, clear understanding. So our good nature of compassion, love, have a chance to express more readily if we are quiet and we have clarity. This is what will happen through all this. Okay. So please repeat after me now. Shri Bhagavanuvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi
अभयं सत्त्वसंशुद्धिः
ज्ञानयोगव्यवस्थितिः
ज्ञानयोगव्यवस्थितिः
दानं दमश्च यज्ञश्च
दानं दमश्च यज्ञश्च
स्वाध्यायस्तप आर्जवम्
स्वाध्यायस्तप आर्जवम्
अहिंसा सत्यमक्रोधः
अहिंसा सत्यमक्रोधः
त्यागः शान्तिरपैशुनम्
त्यागः शान्तिरपैशुनम्
दया भूतेष्वलोलुप्त्वम्
दयाभूतेष्वलोलुप्त्वम्
आर्दवं ह्रीरचापलम्
आर्दवं हीरचापलम्
तेजक्षमा धृतिः शौचम्
तेज क्षमा धृति शौचम्
अद्रोहो नातिमानिता
अद्रोहो नातिमानिता
भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम्
भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम्
अभिजातस्य भारत
अभिजातस्य भारत
Abhijatasya Bharata. So 26 of Daivi qualities are mentioned here. You can look at it, but I'm going to highlight a few for us so that you'll see the connection between some of them, and then you understand things fall in place. All these become our virtues. It'll start exhibiting in our personality. So let us see a few. So Bhagavan begins with Abhayam. Abhayam means fearlessness. And then he says Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi means a mind is pure. Mind is pure means quiet. So cultivating fearlessness, cultivating a quietude of mind, and also Jnana Yoga Samsiddhi means firm abidance in that wisdom that I am that pure self. I am that Satchidananda. Meaning, let's make this inward journey. Yeah? Right away, we all of us want to get this jnanam, and it takes some time. But the more we move towards it, the more it becomes clear for us. The more we study, right? So, you see that what happens when all these are connected is what I want to show. First of all, if we start moving to this path of knowledge with a quiet mind, pure mind, quiet mind is pure mind. As we move towards this, what happens when we go more and more to our place of strength, we become fearless. Because you see what will happen, we have no hesitation to follow the right things. There's clarity in our thinking then. And we know, because we are staying with this in this place of peace and strength, it is very easy for us to be very positively have conviction about the methods that we follow in life, the action and the decisions that we take. So what happens, we are fearless then. So the more you move towards knowledge with a quiet mind, the more fearless you become, right? Or you can say a person who has a quiet mind becomes fearless, and it's easy for them to absorb knowledge as well, whatever way you want to look at it. It's sort of connected is basically an important thing. And when do you truly become fearless? when we are able to know our true nature. From that place comes strength, that because we then follow only the right path, and then who are we afraid of when you're doing the right things, right? Okay, so that's very important. Only when we are sort of doing something wrong is there all this, mind is crowded, mind is disturbed, there's no clarity of thinking, and there is fear. But if we are more and more moving towards a place of peace and strength, then there is fearlessness. This is an important thing. That's why I'm stressing a little bit more. Then he says, charity, that is dana; shama, that is control of the mind; dhamma, control of senses and organs of action. Cultivate these as well. These are all noble virtues to possess, is what Bhagavan is saying. So charity is the light at the level of our intellect. When our mind is the intellect is expansive, thinking of embracing more and more in our under our umbrella, then it's very spontaneous to share. That's charity. Shama is the control of the mind. Dhamma is the control of the senses and the sense organs. So you see, all of them are brought into a line of integration, right? So these are some of the qualities, that virtues that we want to cultivate in our life, beautifully elaborated in these first few shlokas of the 16th chapter. But keep some highlights I'm pointing out, others we can study, some we have already looked at in other chapters. And remember, they all sort of fall into place when we start working on one. But in this particular chapter, Bhagavan talks a lot about the negative qualities, asuric tendencies. And the thing is, the reason he focuses so much on this is for awareness. Awareness, how they actually, what are these qualities? How do they express in us? And what happens as a consequence if I nurture those negativities in us is what Bhagavan is going to show here. And so some of the things that he mentions here are dambaha, darpaha, krodaha, parushyaha, as well as ajnana. Dambaha is hypocrisy, arrogance, anger, and then rudeness, harshness, as well as not knowing our true nature, because of which we do so many things in ignorance. He calls them as asuri lakshanas. So with them, what happens, there is a desire, an unending desire. There's no boundaries for that with these negative qualities, because we are always trying to establish something within us. And so what happens, there is power hunger, there is when that's not fulfilled, we get angry. And he says they trouble people, they cause destruction to families and things like that, and they themselves, Bhagwan says, are constantly anxious and worried because they're planning the next move, so they're never at ease with themselves. So how do they express? They always say, I have to get this, next is something else I want to, please, not accomplishments that we want to do in life. This is how they go after things, not caring for what harm they might do in the process to others. That's what is this asuric tendencies. And then they'll say, this time I destroyed this person, good, next time let's see who else I can put out of my way and move forward in my pursuit of power, pursuit of wealth, pursuit of position. This is what they seem to do. Okay, this is their language. They do not care. There's no compassion for anybody in their movement forward in the path of wealth, power, or position. So Bhagavan says, when that happens, they're definitely on the path of destruction, harm for others, and harm to themselves. So they will have to face the consequences. So if asuric tendencies are nurtured, then he says they will get what they deserve. It might look like they're not getting it in this life, but don't worry, I'm the karma phaladata. That means there's a total consciousness observing all this, and they have to go through their consequences. This is asuric tendencies, right? And if they don't change, their inclination to change, they don't have it, they'll remain in this, getting caught in this chakra again and again, is what Bhagavan says. So I'm not going to go into elaboration. 16th chapter does it in great detail. And if we want to look at where we might have weak points, we can look at it and Bhagwan will give way to changes in the change ourselves in the next, in right here as well as in 17th chapter and in 18th. So we'll focus on that, I think, because we know what can be troublesome to us. I don't think we need to dwell so much on them. So he says, look, there are only, when you look at the bottom line and say, where is this problem arising from? It always boils down to these three things, he says. So let's repeat these two shlokas and then I'll explain a little bit more. त्रिविधं नरकस्येदम्
त्रिविधं नरकस्येदम्
द्वारं नाशनमात्मनः
द्वारं नाशनमात्मनः
कामः क्रोधस्तथा लोभः
कामः क्रोधस्तथा लोभः
तस्मादेतत्त्रयं त्यजेत्
तस्मादेतत्त्रयं त्यजेत्
एतैर्विमुक्तः कौन्तेय
एतैर्विमुक्तः कौन्तेय
तमोद्वारैस्त्रिभिर्नरः
तमोद्वारैस्त्रिभिर्नरः
आचरत्यात्मनः श्रेयः
आचरत्यात्मनः श्रेयः
तो याति पराङ्गतिम्
ततो याति परां गतिम्.
Bhagwan says, I'll tell you. There's a way you can get out of it. By lifting yourself out of these problem areas, you can get out of it. There are three. It is kama, krodha, lobha. Okay, kama is unending, unsatiable desires. We all have desires, not wrong. There are dharmic desires which we have to do, fulfill, taking care of our family responsibilities, taking care of ourselves, taking care of what is ultimately good for us. All this is dharmic. Nobody says you should not do that. But unending, insatiable desires without any rhyme or reasoning, not following dharmic ways, is what Bhagwan says when he says kama. He says kama, krodha, lobha, you please give up these three and then you're free. And then we say, oh, three of them? How by the time I think of one, something else will pop up like Jack in the Box. He says, no, 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 no. Basic thing problem is your desires, unending desires. Because when we have this strong desire that I want this, I just don't want, can't take a no for an answer, I have to get it. Again, please, not dharmic desires, please remember that. This is now again in the context of power and wealth and positions where we want to just push everybody away and get what we want. Bhagwan is trying to say those type of desires, if they're suppressed, you get angry. If something obstructs that, you get angry. So consequence of an obstructed desire is anger. And if you get it, we don't just sit quietly, he says. We just say, I want more of that. I want more of that. Where is an end to all that? So greed is also a consequence of desire, karma, and also anger is a consequence of this desire. So go to that root of the desire, the root of the problem, which is desires, that unending desires. So, and how do these unending desires arise? We saw in the second chapter, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate, we saw, where, we keep on, some experiences happened. Instead of saying that was great and then I have enjoyed it at that point and left it, no, we want to repeat it. We want to add something more to it. Maybe next time it'll be even better. That gulab jamun will taste in that restaurant. I'm just giving an example. Will be even better, or an experience like this will be the best. I want it. If I don't get, all those. That is called a sankalpa. Adding fanciful imagination to that. Please stop it at that. Getting a desire, but don't act on such things. Now, if you say, Bhagwan, is this suppression where I have to suppress my desires and then suppress my anger, suppress my greed? Every time I have to say, Bhagwan, help me. He says, no. He says, I'll tell you a simple way of doing it. He says, divinize them. You all have that love, capacity to love. Change this track of this desire. If at all, what should, for example, let's say, I have this unending desire Turn it slowly. Let the channel slowly be changed to more satsangs, more inspirational reading, more sattvic practices. This is divinizing them. Turn your channel. This way it was going this way, you just turn it slowly, not forcefully, yeah? Because mind does not like force. It'll rebel. Gently, one satsang today, and then more, you'll see how you're drawn into it afterwards. Helplessly, you'll move into this path. I remember this beautiful thing about Vamana avatar. Bhagwan came as little Vamana and then wanted, as Bali Raja, he said, just give me three small, foot, my size foot pieces of land. And what did he do? He finally took the entire heaven, earth, and also sent Bali down. So what it means is, Bhagwan says, I believe initially, just like give a little place in my heart for you. And you say, all right, Bhagwan, 10 minutes, I'll pray for you every day. Okay. And before you realize, your whole life is taken by that. Not just praying, serving, and then, kirtan, satsangs, everything will just come into our life. That's how Bhagwan overtakes our life. So divinize your desires. And then if you have anger, I love this, be like Lakshmana. Be like Lakshmana means if anybody insulted Sri Ram, that's it. Whew, his bow and arrow would be ready. So things like that, if something is right and it's dharmic, stand up for that. Do not hesitate. Whereas if somebody makes some personal remarks, let it wash away. Don't even pay attention. That person was having a bad day. Let it go. Okay? And then if you want to turn it into greed, if you have greed, again, more and more of this, we'll seek it. Okay? So divinize your desires. Divinize desires, divinize your greed, divinize your anger, and you see how easily and with ease all of this will start leaving you. All the unnecessary, troublesome things will leave you, he says. So, Bhagwan is giving a very sort of a final type of advice to Arjuna. Take refuge in Shastras, he says. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te.
तस्मात् शास्त्रं प्रमाणं ते
Karya-karya-vyavastitau
कार्यकार्यव्यवस्थितौ
ज्ञात्वा शास्त्रविधानोक्तं
ज्ञात्वा शास्त्रविधानोक्तं
कर्म कर्तुमिहार्हसि.
कर्म कर्तुम् इहार्हसि.
So Bhagwan says, you'll know all the things about what is right and wrong by studying Shastra. Please don't say, I don't know what Shastra is, I've not studied Vedas. Bhagwan is giving, Lord Krishna is bringing that to us in a very easy and palatable form through the Bhagavad Gita. So we are knowing so much now. So please, when we hear about it through Bhagavad Gita, reflect on it, understand it, and then act. Act accordingly. Okay, that's important. Because we say, please, we want Vedanta to act, help us in our daily life. But then we don't, if we don't work on it, what's been taught, what's the use, right? That's why when we say it's very important that when we study something and we become aware of it, we have to act on it. We have to act on it. So the two main reasons that we fail is either although we know what is right through Shastras, we don't act on it. That's called thoughtless action. Actionless thinking also, that actionless thinking is that, where we suddenly act impulsively without even thinking. So, knowing Shastras, we do not act on it. Or we don't want to know and just blindly act. Both are problematic. Without thinking what is right and wrong, then we get into trouble. And if we know what is right and wrong through Shastras and we just keep on procrastinating, that is actionless thought. So please study the Shastras. When they tell us something, let's focus on that. Let's be alert. Let's know what thought, we have to encourage, what thought we should drop, and then act on them. Act on them. So these things, to put it very simply, think before we act is very important. That means let's be alert. And then when we hear what is right through the scriptures, let's bring that into our life and let's not procrastinate. Let's not postpone. This is the message when Bhagavan says, listen to Shastras and then act accordingly. Okay, so this is our advice for us from Bhagavan at the end of 16th chapter. He says, cultivate those noble qualities, bring one into your life and see how everything will fall into place. If we have negative qualities in us, before we analyze everything, I'll tell you a simple way. We have a root cause, which is these unending desires, or desires which are not properly channelized. I've given you some tools. Try to divinize your desires, and within no time you will have followed the scriptures, you'll become alert in your thinking, and you'll be prompt in your right actions as well. Having said that, Arjuna now has a question. Now begins the 17th chapter. What happens? Bhagavan says, Arjuna says, okay, somebody has studied Shastras. All right, Bhagavan. And then what are they doing? Having studied the Shastras, then they follow it. So yeah, they're liberated, easy to understand. And then the others are these asuric tendencies, people who lead a licentious life and they get into trouble and keep getting back into the I understand that. But Bhagwan, there is a third category, which many people claim to be that. What's going to happen to them? Now comes a beautiful, beautiful chapter called Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. And this will be elaborated more also in the 18th chapter as well. Bhagavan will classify everything into this three types of three qualities. What are they? Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. You keep that in mind. Everything of any action, you'll see how he'll divide everything, will be either Sattvic in nature, Tamasic, Rajasic in nature, or Tamasic in nature. So we have, when we open ourselves and introspect, if we notice something which is negative, obviously it was tamasic. We'll see how we progress into making it a little bit more into the rajasic type, and we'll evolve into the sattvic automatically after that. So he's going to show that beautiful chapter, practical chapters, maybe 16th and 17th. First, we should have studied in Bhagavad Gita and then try to study all those things. It's just incredibly beautiful. In this chapter, we'll see what is the role of faith, Shraddha. What is Shraddha? And then we'll see whether it's the knowledge that we carry, the understanding because of the knowledge we have, and therefore how we act in this world, and the results that follow. All of them are based on our Shraddha. We'll see that. And of course, what type of Shraddha do we have? Is it Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic? We'll see. And then we'll see every action of ours, depending on our thinking, and the results will be Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, depending on the Shraddha. So we'll see that as well. We'll come get some clarification of the terms tapas, yajna, and dana in this chapter, not like what we've heard in the past, but in our lives. What does it mean now? And then all the inputs that we give, that is the food that we take through our senses, through our mouth and everything, please let that be Sattvic too, is Bhagavan's, advice to us. So again, the summary of the 17th chapter is that there is Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic qualities define everything, and that's based upon the Shraddha that we have developed. And let's see what that Shraddha is. So Arjuna asks, Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Ye Shastra Vidhim Utsrajya.
Ye Shastra Vidhim Utsrajya.
Yajante Shraddhayanvitaha.
Yajante Shraddhayanvitaha.
Tesham Nishtha tu ka Krishna.
Tesham Nishtha tu ka Krishna.
Tattvam aho rajastamaha.
Sattvam aho rajastamaha.
Bhagwan, I have a doubt. Very clear what happens to people who follow Shastras. I know very clearly now what happens to people with asuric tendencies. But I'll tell you some things. There are people, okay, who do all these I've seen them worship in the temples, right? I see them doing great good work, social work and everything, but they are not very familiar with scriptures. They seem to be doing good things. What happens to them? Because you said those people should follow shastras, and then they'll be protected and all that, they'll come to me. But these people are doing good stuff, but they are it doesn't look like it's all according to what's given in the scriptures, the do's and don'ts that are given. Most of us feel that way, right? What is their status? Which category will they belong to? Sattvic, rajasic, tamasic? Hmm? Are they good because they have shraddha and they're doing all these things? Or if they're not following scriptures, would you classify them as bad? Will they lose out? This is the question that Arjuna is asking Bhagwan. So Bhagwan says, not so simple, Arjuna, because they seem to be doing rituals, they seem to be doing what is, social work and things like that, not so easily classified as, oh yeah, that's okay, they're all, following the right Shraddha, or they are according to scriptures. I can't say. And why? Bhagwan says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Trividha Bhavati Shraddha
त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा
Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja
देहिनां सा स्वभावजा
Satviki Rajasi Chaiva
सात्विकी राजसी चैव
Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrunu.
तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
Important shloka, important, because he says just because they're doing in something which looks like they're doing with faith, they're doing it regularly, it's not that straightforward. Huh? Because what is faith? Now comes the question. What is faith? What do we mean by faith? Because yesterday I was asking to, I teach Hindu students in a local private school, and I was asking them what faith is, and immediate answer for anybody is something to do with religion. That's the first thing they'll say. Faith is, I feel like religious belief or some spiritual thing that they believe in. Then you have to show without faith, we can't do a thing in life. Okay? So, faith is built in a person because of countless births. Countless birth. So, let me see if I have that slide. We'll read this shloka as well, and then I'll explain some more. Yeah. Sattvanurupa sarvasya
Sattvanurupa sarvasya
tha bhavati bharata
Shraddha bhavati bharata
Raddha mayoyam purushaha
Shraddhamayoyam Purushah
yo yat shraddham sa eva saha.
Yo yat shraddham sa eva saha.
So this also is, Bhagwan is now telling a very important thing for us here. What is faith? Swabhavaja Shraddha, he says. What? The faith is built in a person because of countless births. What we have cultivated, understood, and has become something that we believe in has actually become our faith. We think faith is something that I believe in this God, I believe in that. No. That is not faith. Everything that we do with the knowledge and that wisdom that we're carrying, or whatever wisdom, whatever beliefs that we can, from many births, it's become a personality. So what happens with that, what we have kept in our lives from many lives, what's in our mind and in our intellect, with that we have a certain vision of life. We have a certain understanding of life. And then becomes our personality, the way we think, then we act. Everything, faith has gone into all that already. Not just what I just saw now and then, no. Or not what I just, saw in my family. No, it's sort of come with us. And you see, that's why people behave differently even in a same family. two brothers, two sisters, they're so different. You say, why is this little one so different from that other? When you see little children, you wonder. Can you imagine? This is because of our what we have cultivated, vision and our thinking. Everything has been coming with us. That little packet, our mind, is coming with us through lives. Okay, so Bhagwan says everybody has already developed this. And in fact, there's no one person who's without faith right now. Even if a person says, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God, if that's their understanding of faith, the fact that they say, I don't believe, means they have faith in that knowledge that they do not believe in God. Think about it. Right? So they believe that. That means they have faith. So everything is influenced by our Shraddha already, our vision, the values that we hold on to, our background, everything is influenced by that. Then consequently, our conduct, everything is influenced by that as well. So now Bhagwan's going to show right from what we gain, the knowledge, the means that we want to acquire that knowledge, and with that knowledge, how we act, everything depends on Shraddha. And the Shraddha can be Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. So just because a person is doing something, what type of faith does that person have? Is it Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic? What do we mean? We'll see that a little, because that's very pertinent to you and me, right? To know something, right, we need a means of knowledge, right? And then what happens when we gain that knowledge? We will then pursue it, we'll accept it, with that knowledge we bring our actions. Now, some might say, you know what? I don't believe in all this Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. All I believe is in what I see. Direct perception, and to an extent, logic. That's it. So that's the way I live life. Okay, that's your Shraddha. That's fine. We leave it at that. Leave it at that. But you see, for all of us, we do gather knowledge, and based on that, we act. So what type of knowledge have we gathered? What are the means that we've used to gain that knowledge? We followed our moms, our grandmas, their way of action, our mentors, and then or studied something noble and exposed that. Or somebody's just said, run after this, go after that. You see? And that's the faith we have. We follow that. And so what will happen? Shraddha then will motivate our action too. If we have Rajasic Shraddha, actions will be Rajasic. If we have Sattvic Shraddha, we'll follow those ways of action. If you have Tamasic, we will follow that as well. We'll see in everything this Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. But the beginning point is our faith, Shraddha. And what type of Shraddha we have is very important. So now Bhagwan says, if actions are arising in these people, you said, who do not follow scriptures, Bhagwan, I don't see them following scriptures, but they're doing rituals, they're doing, pujas, they're, doing social work. Bhagwan says, if it is a selfless reason, because there's so much love they want to share, no ulterior selfish motives, and they're doing it even though they have not studied the scriptures, this is Sattvic Shraddha. They're driven by that. But if it's self-centered, wondering who's looking at me as I'm doing all these wonderful things, is anybody watching me as I'm just, doing some noble work, sweeping the floor in the mandir and things like that? You can imagine, this is driven by Rajasic, Shraddha. But if people are doing things with jealous intent in them, or by fear of foul means, those types of things are Tamasic. They're being propelled by Tamasic Shraddha in them. And of course, in chapter 17, Bhagwan talks about, people who propitiate various gods, people who worship Bhagwan just out of gratitude, out of humility, and wanting to recognize the power of Bhagwan everywhere, see Bhagwan everywhere. That is Sattvic Shraddha. And there are people who go to the mandir only to ask for, give me more, do this for me, do that for me, a Rajasic Shraddha. And believe it or not, we know that there are people who try to do harm to others through prayers as well. Worshipping this spirit, that spirit, to cause problems to somebody. We know that it happens all the time I'm hearing so many of these, in, various pursuits, those are tamasic. Shraddha is propelling them into such types of actions. Hmm? So these are the type of things. So now you see, Shraddha will be what is already inbuilt in us, by which we then will seek various means of knowledge. Meaning our what we carry in our head will depend upon the type of Shraddha we have. That's the way we pursue to gain wisdom in us. And then based on that, our work will also be influenced, our values we hold in life will be influenced, what we look at as life will also be influenced by that. And this Shraddha is what we have built through many lives, not just this time, not just believing in this god and that god, this religion and that religion. This is the Shraddha that Bhagwan is talking about. So if I have spiritual sattvic Shraddha, then my focus will be, will it have anything that I do, will it help me quieten my mind, right? If it is a rajasic Shraddha, my personal gain becomes important. Tamasic Shraddha will lead me to do destructive things, harmful things. So now Bhagwan in chapter 17 talks about Shraddha, this sattvic, rajasic, tamasic Shraddha influencing yajna, dana, tapas and food. Let's not get confused. It's very, very pertinent to us. Very pertinent. And Bhagwan uses these three words, yajna, dana and tapas, many times in the Bhagavad Gita. So what have we looked so far in the 17th chapter? Shraddha. What is Shraddha? And that is already inbuilt in us, we've understood. And that influences every aspect of my life and how we've understood, because it's what I shouldn't say information, some knowledge we'll carry. Based on that knowledge, the means we take to get that knowledge is also influenced by my Shraddha now, what I already have, and that will influence the way I behave as well. Right? And then all my actions and the consequent results, everything starts with that Shraddha. So it can be sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. The expression will be, will my mind become more and more quiet through this? Or will I look after only my personal gains? Or will I harm others? Everything is influenced by that Shraddha that I already carry in my head, Bhagwan says. Now he's going to talk about this yajna, dana, tapas. Same thing, our actions, how it happens because of a Shraddha is going to be explained. And there are also three types. So let's see what they mean. So now, let's just say we have certain end that we want to get, right? Whatever goal we want to achieve. Maybe let's just say let's talk of a noble thing, right? So we feel good about it. We have a beautiful sattvic, a goal of wanting to feed many people. Let's just think like that. I want to help somebody. So now the goal is clear. Right? That's what I want to do. Now, if I want to do that, I have to conserve energy, because I have to let go of everything. I mean, I have to plan, I have to put things in place, and I need to sort of see how I can mobilize resources. And so what will happen? My time for other things will be less. So I will not be wasting time in, say, too much TV watching, or too much time on the phone with unnecessary talk, or unnecessary whatever pursuits I give up. So I conserve my energy. When I conserve my energy, what happens? I become more and more single-pointed towards that goal and become more and more integrated. This is conserving energy. This is tapas. You see, we are all doing tapas now. We have to give up some things to come and sit in satsang, right? So this is a form of tapas. We are conserving, giving up other things. We are conserving our energy for this, for that goal. Simple. Now what happens? When we have conserved this energy, we have to use it for the right purpose. Whatever we wanted, feeding the hungry, you're using that, right? So your action now it's the conserved energy is, now tracked towards that action, that is yajna. So that because we're using it, that energy is used for that purpose. Yajna is not just sitting and doing havana, and tapa is not just sitting and or severe austerities. Bhagwan doesn't like that actually. So in fact, we conserve our sense, do sense control, mind control, whatever, and use that energy for actions in the right manner. So there is tapas and there is yajna here. And when the results come, none of us have achieved results just by our effort. We share with everybody because results have come through the help of many. In the family setting, we take care of everybody. When we wanted to feed the hungry, we're sharing whatever, the work brings the results. We collect money from here, talk to that person, mobilize resources. We use it for that. So we're sharing. That is the dana. So clearly, what has happened based upon our Shraddha, we have now focused our energy towards in the right track. So whatever we do, all actions, whether it is, this yajna means actions, will depend upon our Shraddha, and consequent to that, we will conserve our energy for that particular action. That particular action will lead to the results as well. That is tapas, yajna, dana. Anything in life is just this. So you see, depending on what our goals are, depending on the knowledge base that we have in our heads already, then goals will also be sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. Then our energy will be expended in those directions and only. I hope this is clear, okay? All of them can be either sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. Just keep few examples in mind, and then you can reflect on it. Then Bhagavan says, people will be doing all kinds of conserving energy. How do they conserve energy? It can be at the level of the physical body, it can be level at the mind as well as the speech. When you want to conserve energy to use it for the right purpose, when you do social service, you're using your physical body for that purpose, right? So that is physical body tapas. And when you say speech level tapas, means when we don't engage in anything unpleasant, we don't waste our time in unnecessary gossiping or bad mouthing our people, and use words which are pleasant, kind, compassionate, speak when necessary. We're doing tapas there. And mentally to keep a cheerful attitude also is a tapas. See how tapas is defined completely differently now. These are all sattvic tapas that we are doing to conserve and to use it for the right purpose. Okay. So having said that now, okay, so I hope Shraddha is clear. Based on Shraddha, everything we do will also follow. Now in that he has classified yajna, dana and tapas. If it is sattvic, goal that we have, that's the most important thing for us. We then will conserve energy and use it for that action, and the result when it comes we'll share. If it is rajasic, again we'll do certain sacrifices, but then our actions will be for a particular reason, and the results mostly I keep it. And if it is tamasic, again I'll do I'll plan certain things. And then what I'll do, I will also do such actions, and then I might harm others in consequence as well. But it's all based on Shraddha. Keep that in mind. Now Bhagavan talks about food, and Bhagavan once again talks about this charity, dana. So he says food that we intake, he says should be in such a way that it helps us. What should it help us in? Bhagavan says it should help us in making sure that we gives our longevity, meaning we stay healthier. It's nourishing for us, which keeps our mind and our physical body light so that we can think clearly. It's very important. So food should be like that. We should eat sattvic food. Ayuhu sattva bala sukha priti vivardhanam. It should increase all these things for us. Whereas what is the rajasic type of food? Excessively salty, bitter, pungent, and which is not good for us, as ulcers and all kinds of problems. That is rajasic food. Tamasic food is stale, foul smelling, difficult to digest. It's not food. We feed ourselves through our senses. So whether it's through our eyes, through our food, through our ears, through our touch, right? Smell is not such a big problem. But I'm just saying all these things, they are also sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. And Bhagavan says, even when we give charity, if it is with giving it to the right people at the right time, and with the right attitude, it's a sattvic thing. we do charity just to show off, it is rajasic. Tamasic is giving money for terrorisms and things like that. So watching all these, what Bhagwan is trying to say is, in all these, see, where my mental inclination is. Don't beat ourselves, but it's a pathway to say, this is troublesome for me, maybe I should focus on something else. That's all. Because this is an internal introspection to sweep away, what is troubling us, and what we already have, so many wonderful qualities, to just strengthen them, so that we are at peace with ourselves. Our mind becomes quiet, more and more cooperative. There's clarity in our thinking, and then whatever actions that follow also will be very beneficial for everybody. So there's a quote from Chandogya Upanishad. I don't think I have too much time to say that. We'll think about it next time or at some other point. But I want to conclude this chapter, the 17th chapter, most beautiful, most practical chapter, when Bhagwan says, all you have to do is this. And he says, Om Tat Sad iti nirdesho Brahma. Sorry. Om Tat Sad iti nirdeshaha
ॐ तत्सत् इति निर्देशः
ब्रह्मणस्त्रिविधः स्मृतः
ब्रह्मणस्त्रिविधः स्मृतः
ब्राह्मणास्तेन वेदाश्च
ब्राह्मणास्तेन वेदाश्च
याश्च विहिताः पुरा.
याचनाश्च विहिताः पुरा.
Bhagwan says, look, have faith in God, that there is a higher power taking care of you. There's a totality. We are playing our part here, but there is a totality, and that will keep your faith sattvic. Then if you do any work, what flows out of you will be sattvic. Be in sattva. Whether it's your food, whether it's your faith, whether it's your, whatever tapas that you do. We've spoken about different kinds of tapas. Whether it's your work that we do, let it be sattvic. So be alert, be aware. And then what happens? There's an integration within ourselves, our internal personality, so that we are in line with our thought, word, and action. Let there be no discord. Let there be oneness. And then what happens? Anything that flows out of us will have to be sattvic, most beautiful, making us at ease with ourselves. This will help you to know me, is what Krishna is promising. Just hold on to me. If this is to remember sattva, rajas, tamas all the time, don't worry. Remember, there's a totality. You surrender and be in the present and do your best. And keep in sattva as much as possible. Make the sattvic choices with alertness. So with that, Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.